What's up, folks? I'm Dwayne,
I'm Alicia.
and this is Blackboard Gaming, where we teach you about all these great board games that are out there.
Waiting to be played by you and yours. I'm a simple man, don't want a complication. Complication.
Hey, everybody!
Today, we're going to talk about a game that I am excited to talk about. And that game is Votes for Women.
Votes for Women is designed by Tori Brown and published by Fort Circle Games.
Let's go to the table for an overview of how this game is played.
Votes for Women is an area majority dice rolling game for 2 players where the players take part in the American women's suffrage movement. To set up the game, we would place the game board in the middle of the table. And as you can see, the game board is a map of the United States. And the United States is separated into 6 different regions. You got your West region over there, the Plains. Here you got your South region. Over there you got the Midwest. That's where we live at. Over here you got your Atlantic and Appalachia. And over there you got the Northeast region. And then we would take this turn marker and place it on the first turn space at the bottom of the board. Next, we would take the deck of 12 state cards, and after giving them a good shuffle, we would take 3 of those and put them aside. We're not using them in this game. And then we would take the other 9 and reveal them face up in 2 rows below the left area of the game board. Next, we're going to take the deck of 12 strategy cards, and after giving them a good shuffle, reveal 3 of those cards face up to the right of the state cards, and we're going to keep the remaining deck of strategy cards face down nearby. The player playing as the suffragist will get these yellow cubes, all these purple cubes, and they will get exactly 2 campaign meeples of each of those matching colors. They'll also get these green checkmark tokens, and they will keep all their player pieces to the left of the game board. The player playing as the opposition will get all these orange cubes and exactly 2 campaign meeples matching that color, and they'll also get these red X tokens, and they'll keep their pieces to the right of the game board. Each player is going to take their deck of 52 cards. So over here, you got the deck for the suffragist player, and over here you got the deck for the opposition player. Now each of these decks have a start card, as you can see written right here, and then the other cards have early, middle, and late written on them. Each player is going to set up their decks by first of all taking their start card and placing it off to the side, and then they're going to separate their cards into the early, middle, and late cards, and they're going to separately shuffle those cards and create a face down deck in front of them with the late cards at the bottom, the middle cards on top of that, and then the early cards on top of that one. And then they're going to take their start cards and add it to their hand. The last thing we would do is take these 6 congressional markers, these suffragist and opposition buttons, and these blue D4s, these red D6s, and these white D8s. And we would place all those near the game board in reach of all players. So I'm going to do my best to give you a good gist of what you're doing in this game. So in this game, the suffragist player is trying to push for Congress to propose the 19th Amendment. And they're doing that by taking these congressional markers and they're placing it on these spots on the board. And there are 6 spots, which of course you start the game with 6 of these, And then once that's done, they're trying to get 36 states to ratify the amendment. Now, the opposition player is trying to stop that. And they don't want this to get pushed through. And they're trying to, in the end, have 13 states reject the amendment. Now the game is going to last 6 turns. And at the end of 6 turns, if Congress has not pushed for the 19th Amendment, then the opposition immediately wins. But let's say at the end of 6 turns, the suffragist player has gotten the amendment to be proposed, then, like I said, they have to get 36 states to ratify the amendment. And if they do that, they immediately win. If the opposition player gets 13 states to reject the amendment, then they immediately win. Now, like I said, game lasts 6 turns, and each turn has 4 phases. There's the planning phase, there's the strategy phase, there's the operations phase, and then there's the cleanup phase. Now, on the planning phase, each player is going to draw 6 cards from their deck. Now, remember, they started the game with the start card, so they're going to draw 6 more cards. So they are always going to have 7 cards during the planning phase. So once they're going to play 6 of these cards throughout the turn, and they're going to hold 1 back. Now, so this is the starting hand for the suffragist player, and here's the starting hand for the opposition player. Next, we're going to do the strategy phase. Now, remember, we revealed 3 strategy cards face up as part of setup. So the suffragist player, who's always going to go first, is going to try to get one of these strategy cards by bidding a certain number of buttons that they have in their supply. Now, the strategy phase is skipped in the first turn because nobody has any buttons. You know, you end up getting buttons throughout the game in the operations phase. But like I said, the suffragist player will bid on one of these strategy cards by bidding a certain number of buttons. So now the opposition player has the option to not bid anything, or tie the bid, or outbid the suffragist player. So if the opposition doesn't win the bid, then the suffragist player would get one of these strategy cards. If the opposition ties the bid, then nobody gets any strategy cards, but their buttons are still spent. If the opposition outbids the suffragist player, even though everybody still loses their buttons, the opposition outwon the bid, and they get to get one of these strategy cards, and then they will be able to use this on a future turn. But like I said, we skipped this phase in the first turn. Then we would come to the operations phase, and that's where the meat of the game exists. The operations phase is going to last a total of 6 rounds, and in each round, the players, starting with the suffragist player, is going to play a card from their hand, and they have the option to play a strategy card or a state card. Now, I showed you how to get the strategy cards, and we skipped that step in the first turn. And I'll show you how to get the state cards in a little bit. So what the players are trying to do is they're trying to place cubes of their color out onto this the map in each of these states, and they're trying to gain majority in each of these states by the end of the game. So when you play a card from your hand, you have 4 options. You can play the card for the event, so you will follow the text that's written on the card. You can play the card for the campaigning action. You can play the card and take an organizing action, or you can play the card and take a lobbying action. So when you play the card, let's go over the event action. If you play the card for the event, you follow the text. So if you look here, this is your start card. So you always got to play that first. But here you got this one that says receive 1 button and add 1 cube in 1 state in each region. This one, the Sojourner Truth, roll a D8 and add that number of cubes in the Midwest region. No more than 1 per state. So the suffragist player has to play this card, and it says add a purple campaigner and a yellow campaigner in the Northeast region, receive 2 buttons, and add 2 cubes in the state of New York. So they take their campaigners, put them up there. They receive 2 buttons and put it in their play area. And they take 2 of their cubes. And they decide to pick 1 of each color and put it in the state of New York. And then this card goes to their discard pile. Next, the opposition player plays their start card, and they play it as an event card, and they follow the text on that. So this is the state of the game board after the opposition's start card was activated. So now, if you notice here in New York, the suffragists had 2 cubes in there. Now they only have 1. So whenever a card tells you to place a cube in a state, each state can only hold 1 player's cubes. So for each cube that you place, you first have to remove it. So the better example, let's say we had an event card that said place 4 cubes in Georgia, and that's for the suffragist player. As you see, the opposition player has a cube there. So the suffragist player would first remove 1 cube for 1 of those cubes, and then they would place 2, 3, 4, like so. To play a card as a campaigning action, the player would simply take 1 of the cards from their hand and place it into the discard pile, and then they would roll a number of D4s equal to the number of campaigners they have out onto the map. So if this was the suffragist player, they have 2 campaigners, so they take 2 D4s and roll them. And the result, they will assign each die to each of those campaigners and put that number of cubes out onto the map. Now, if they don't like their roll, they can spin a button as many times they want to re-roll for each button spent. Also, if they wanted to, they could spin a button before they re-roll their D4s, and they could move 1 of those campaigners to a different region out into the United States. Now, if you wanted to play a card for its organizing action, you would simply return a card to the top, discard a card to your discard pile, and then take a number of buttons from the supply equal to the number of campaigners I have out on the board. So the suffragist player would just get 2 buttons. And the lobbying action, same thing, return a card, discard a card to your discard pile, and then you will roll these D6s. For each, a number of D6s equal to the number of campaigners you have on the board. And if you happen to roll a 6, wow, I rolled 2 6s, then for each of those 6s, you get to place 1 of these congressional markers in Congress. Now, same for the opposition. If they took this action, for each 6 they roll, they will remove a congressional marker. Remember, they're trying to stop the suffragist player. Now we can talk about these state cards. So if a player is able to get 4 of their cubes into a state that's represented by one of these state cards, then they would gain that card, placing it in front of them, and that card would give them a one-time benefit to use in a later round. So let's say the opposition player was able to get 4 cubes in the state of Texas, and then they would gain this card and place it in front of them. So once each player has played 6 cards from their hand, which means they only got 1 card left, then the operation phase will end and we will go into a cleanup phase. Now, if there are any cards that are in this area that says cards in effect for the rest of the turn, if a player has played a card there, then they will take that card and place it in their discard pile. Then we will move this turn marker to the next turn, and then we will start the next turn. If the suffragist player is able to get 6 congressional markers into Congress, that means the 19th Amendment has been proposed. And for every state that the players have 4 or more cubes in, they will remove those cubes and we will replace them with the green checkmark tokens for the suffragist player and the red X tokens for the opposition player. And now for the rest of the game, whenever a player is able to get 4 or more cubes in a specific state, they will immediately remove those cubes and place one of their markers in that state. And play will continue like that until the end of turn 6. At the end of turn 6, we will go into final voting. So in final voting, we're going to go state by state, and each player is going to take a D6 die and roll it. And then they're going to add to it. If they have cubes in that state, they're going to add that number of cubes to their total. And whoever has the highest result will immediately win that state. And so if the suffragist player is able to get 36 states with their green checkmark tokens on them, then they immediately win the game. The opposition, if they're able to get 13 states with the red X tokens on their, with the red X tokens on them, then they will immediately win the game. And that's pretty much how you play Votes for Women. So when we were first offered the opportunity to talk about this game, I was a little leery because, I don't usually gravitate to historical board games. But I told my wife anyway, and she was like, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I pretty much threatened him like, yeah, you better do that.
So, I was like, all right, we'll check this game out. So, what did you think about the theme of this game?
All right, so as a student of history and a teacher of history, this game, the theme resonated with me on so many levels. We're in the year 2023, so 2020 was the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And so, yeah, this game is right on time.
Is that when this game came out?
Well, that's when it came on the Kickstarter.
Came on the Kickstarter? Oh, okay. All right. So, so you love the theme of this game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the theme spoke to me.
Well, I'm going to talk about how I felt about the theme a little later.
Okay.
But, okay, what did you think about the components?
All right. Let's start with that map.
Oh, yeah, you love those maps.
I love those maps. That map is so crisp and clean, and I love the way it divides the country into regions. So I really like that. I actually like the check marks and the X marks.
That's actually one of my favorite parts.
Yes,
components of the game is the check marks.
It is such a visual record of what the game is about and what you're actually doing, because those red X's are blockers. They're haters, and they did that perfectly.
Right.
I love the little suffragette and opposition meeples.
The campaigners.
The campaigners.
The campaigners.
Yeah,
okay.
I like the way they look. And yeah, they got my purple, which is just a little bonus.
You know what I like was for the suffragist player, you had 2 different color cubes.
Yes.
Because some of the cards would target purple cubes, so you didn't lose everything.
Well, I think that was one of the reasons, but another reason was at one point there were 2 national suffragette organizations, and so it represented those 2 entities.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought they just put it in the game. Okay. Excuse me.
So one of the things that I really liked about this, obviously the theme resonated with me in the first place, but after playing the game, this is a game that I really felt immersed in the struggle to win the vote, and when I got blocked, it was personal. So this game really felt thematic.
Okay, well, all right. So we just gonna go on to what our thoughts are. Okay, we usually go through the art. The art is just historical pictures and everything. And, to teach, I mean, this is not one of those introductory,
No, this is not an introductory
you know,
game.
um, but let's just go right to overall thoughts, I think. Okay, what are your overall thoughts of Votes for Women?
Okay, I love, love, love the historical accuracy, the balance of perspectives, and the representation. They got it right. They put in the suffrage movement was not a unified, monolithic movement. It had the same problems that were current in a society. It Racism reared its ugly head in the suffrage movement, and black women were fighting for basic human rights in addition to the right to vote. And I just really think this game did an excellent job of showing all of that.
Okay, so, well, all right. My answer is going to be a little different. Because, I mean, when all is said and done, I really did enjoy the experience of playing this game.
Yes.
But I don't think I was really supposed to. Because it was so many things about this game that wasn't going to resonate. Like, okay, first and foremost, the mechanics of this game, area majority, which that's my least favorite board game mechanic. So, I knew I don't think I was supposed to like this game, but because that was the mechanic. And then the other mechanic is, your dice rolling. There is a lot of luck in this game. There's a little bit of mitigation where you spinning those buttons to re-roll dice and stuff, but you know how my luck with rolling dice is.
But see, the difference is, like a lot of games, you got to get a 4 or you got to get a 6. You have to get one specific number. You will roll a 6-face die and you had to get a 3 to 6. So you had a 50% chance of getting what you needed.
Exactly, and I usually was the other 50.
Whatever.
So,
So it wasn't as luck based as, honestly, I didn't think about the mechanics when I was playing this game.
You was just really invested in
I
the
was
struggle.
invested in the struggle. And in my mind, I was getting us to vote in this country.
Right, because you were looking at it from its historical aspect. I was looking at it from a board game aspect.
And honestly, y'all, when he was taking my cubes off,
yeah, she was like,
I was feeling some kind of way.
Right. I was like, do I need to sleep on the couch tonight? I mean, and so that's the other thing. Like, because we're not super competitive. Okay?
Not with each other.
No, we're not super competitive. And so in this game, I'm playing as the opposition. First of all, to learn this game, I checked out Rodney Smith's Watch It Play. He did a wonderful tutorial about this game. So I learned the game, and I played the solo mode. It has a nice solo mode. But I saw how challenging it was because in the solo mode, you play as suffragists, the suffragist side. So when I, played it with Alicia, she, of course, she's a woman, so she was the suffragist side, and I was the opposition. And usually in the game, in a game where you get to play as the bad guy, I have no problem playing the bad guy. But in this game, I really felt like the bad guy, and it had me feeling some kind of way because she was sitting there like, I'm gonna get these cubes on this map or whatever, and then I didn't like that feeling of where you were like, I'm going to win Michigan, and I'm like, no, you're not,
That's honestly, so I enjoyed the game because it was immersive. But for me, historical games that really are accurate are not a recreational activity for me.
Right. And no, I get it.
So, no, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't play this just for the fun of playing it.
Yeah.
To me, this is to help people understand. And honestly, I like that you said that, because I could see playing this in a middle school civics class and having kids play. I wouldn't have them play. I would have kids play in teams. But when you feel like the bad guy, because I think that this is a great way, I think, to really help people understand how personal and real the struggle is. We can take for granted the rights that we have, and we cannot, without appreciating the hard fight it took to win those rights. So this game to me can really bring appreciation to the struggle in a way that maybe other things may not do.
No, I get it, because like I said, when you play as the suffragists, it's an uphill battle.
It is.
Because you have to get 36 states, whereas the opposition,
they have to do is block.
Yeah, block and get 13 to reject it, and then they win. So yeah, this really does simulate that struggle. And like I said, if ever you want to play this game, I'll play it. But like I said, it's mind you, it's a really good game. It really does what it sets out to do. I like the historical accuracy on the cards. I love all that. So like overall, this is a great game.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
All right. So if you like the contents of this video, feel free to hit the like button. Subscribe.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And definitely give Votes for Women a look-see. I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
This has been Blackboard Gaming.
We will see you next time.